Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. You can check out the radio version of the show every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern on WDJY 99.1 in Atlanta. We also air on a podcasting network in Los Angeles called the 405 Media. There's a TV version of the show that airs on KMVT 15 in Silicon Valley at 8 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday nights. Both versions of the show air in other states. For these show times, plus past episodes, please visit the show's website at buildingthefutureshow.com. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Ryan Stewart. He's the inventor of Art Splash by Mattel and winner of ABC's The Toy Box TV show. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. I kind of remember finding you on LinkedIn, and actually my daughter has Art Splash, and she actually really loves it. And so when I kind of stumbled across your portfolio or your profile on LinkedIn, I was like, oh, I should see if this guy wants to be on the show. And we kind of connected, and you agreed to do the show, which I'm honored to kind of have you on the show. But maybe before we get into kind of all that fun stuff, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with where you grew up.
Yeah. So, Kevin, I grew up in Seattle, Washington. I now live in Arizona. So
Okay.
I went from all rain to all sun.
Sure.
It's a great transition. I've been in Arizona for about 20 years, so I'm just about dried out from the years I spent in Seattle.
Nice.
No, as a kid, inventing was somewhat of a dream. Something I did for fun.
Okay.
I had an invention journal. My mind was always spinning about different ideas. And one day my mom, before I got the invention journal, my mom was like, hey, you got all these ideas. Why don't you start writing them down? And she gave me a little spiral notebook, and I started writing them down. And I was about 12 years old when I started doing that, and did it through my early 20s. And it was fun. But as far as a profession, my profession has always been business. I started over 30 companies since the age of 15. I started my first auto detailing company when I was 15. And when I say company, I mean, that's a loose term at 15, but that's when I started making money from doing it. The truth is I started cleaning the car that I thought was going to be mine when I turned 16. It was my parents' car.
Okay.
And it didn't happen like that, but I thought it was going to be mine, so I took pride in it, and I cleaned it, and the neighbors started seeing me, and then my parents' friends. And so everybody's asking, hey, clean my car, I'll give you some money. And so, the light bulb went off, and I'm 15. I'm like, cool, I can make some money doing this.
Sure.
And I ran a detailing business that stemmed into multiple automotive businesses. I owned multiple car washes, and I owned a wheel repair company, which I actually currently still own. But so it stemmed from there. So business was that. On the inventing side, I said I started when I was 12, writing my ideas down into my early 20s, and something kind of happened. In my early 20s, I came to the realization, or so that I thought, that inventing and coming up with a product idea was something really hard, and that, to get it off the ground, you had to have a manufacturing facility, and you had to have patents, and you had to have all these things and these resources that I didn't have.
Sure.
And so I kind of, it kind of stunted my creativity, because it was like when I got old enough and thought, inventing would be super cool to do, it kind of burst my bubble. And so I kind of gave up on it.
Interesting.
And so that's when I went full time into business, and didn't really look back on the inventing side for a while. So fast forward into my early 30s, I had 3 kids at the time. I still have 3 kids, but and my oldest son had found one of my spiral notebooks, my invention journals.
That's awesome.
That I had. And he found it in a little memorabilia box in the garage. So he brings me this journal out of nowhere and said, hey, Dad, what's this? And I said, well, when I was around your age, I had a dream of becoming an inventor. So I used to write down all these ideas in these journals, and with the dream of one day becoming an inventor. And so my son looked at me and said, hey, Dad, why did you give up on your dreams? And it was at that point that I was like, holy cow, here I am, a father raising 3 boys, teaching them that they can dream big and do whatever they dream about. And, here I am, I'm getting caught that I gave up on a big dream of mine.
Sure.
So it was about that time that I decided, you know what, he's right. I gave up on my dream back then. I need to do something about that. And so I started writing down my ideas again and didn't really know where to take it. At the time, I had more resources than I did in my early 20s. So I thought, maybe I'll manufacture a product.
Okay.
And so I started researching it. And then I stumbled upon Stephen Key's book, One Simple Idea. And the premise of being able to license a product to a company that has all the resources, has all the distribution, has all the connections, all the money to be able to get the product off the ground on the store shelves and then collect a royalty and move on. So after I got that in my head, I realized this is completely possible. No matter what kind of resources anybody has, licensing is truly for everybody. And so
interesting.
It was shortly after that, and I started learning about licensing a lot through Stephen Key, through InventRight, Stephen Key and Andrew Krause's company. And basically, I came up with Art Splash shortly after that. I called it 3D Liquid Art at the time.
So how did that come to be, just out of curiosity? Because you had a really cool story, and I remember when we first kind of chatted.
Yeah, so that was an accident, which is kind of ironic. And there's no true accident.
Sure.
I mean, when you're an inventor and you're thinking like an inventor, you're constantly looking at things differently than other people. And so what happened was at one of my car washes. So I had a car wash. There's a hand car wash, and it took a little longer for cars to be cleaned. So half an hour, 45 minutes sometimes. And when customers would bring their cars in with their kids would be running around all over the place. There's just nothing for them to do. So I thought, I need to make something for kids to do so they're not getting run over. And so at a October festival, I got this idea of this duck race. So that was not my invention. It was just something I saw at an event. So basically what it was two old-fashioned water pumps, a water container, and then two troughs, essentially like rain gutters.
Mm-hmm.
And so you stick a rubber duck on each side of the track, and then each person would pump the water. And the faster you pump the water, the more water you pump out, the faster the duck goes down the track, and someone wins.
Sure.
So it was a lot of fun. And in the process, I was coating the gutters with some waterproofing material.
Okay.
And I was painting them. And I mixed the two chemicals together by accident. And what happened was when I put water on the track, in one specific area, there was a kind of a design of water that was in a beaded shape that was stuck kind of in one spot. And I thought, that's really interesting. I wonder if I can mimic this into something really cool through like a stencil. So I did, and it worked fantastically. And so then I was like, wow, the light bulb went off. This is super cool. I called the patent attorney, went through the process of filing, and then it was time to, okay, what do I do with this?
Sure.
So I started calling around. I got it licensed. Make a long story short, license fell through. I tried out for a TV show. I got turned down from the TV show.
Okay. How did you find the TV?
Campaign.
Just online, or how did you come
the
about
TV
that?
show? Well, the TV show was Make Me a Millionaire Inventor, the one that I got turned down from.
Okay.
And so then I had a Kickstarter campaign that failed.
Okay.
And after that, what happened was I was kind of at the end of my ropes. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was thinking maybe back to manufacturing.
Okay.
And I got a phone call from a producer that was on Make Me a Millionaire Inventor. And the person said, we saw your product there. It was not a good fit for that show, but we feel that's a perfect fit for this new show called The Toy Box.
Okay.
Put on by ABC, Mattel, Disney, Toys R Us. So do you want to try out? I'm like, absolutely. Where do I sign?
Sure.
And so
that's awesome, though.
So I got on the show and eventually won, and products in Toys R Us now.
So
called Art Splash.
So kind of walk me through the process, because I've seen the show, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen the show, but it's quite walk us through kind of the premise of the show, because it's quite an accomplishment to actually, I think, make it through one round, never mind winning the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for one thing, the show was a big secret.
Okay.
There, like season 2's already aired. There's already a winner, season 2. Season 2 people had an idea of, for one, they knew that the judges were going to be, kids, you know, 10-year-olds, I mean, 7 to 12, but we didn't know that. So for us,
interesting,
to get on the stage and all of a sudden see this panel of judges that are kids, it was quite shocking. So that was one thing that the audience didn't really understand. None of us inventors knew that we were going to be in front of kids. So that was pretty fun. And so, yeah, I mean, it was nerve-wracking though. I mean, because for one, we'd go out, we would do our segment, and then we would get put back into, I was in the stairwell, so there was no like green room. My green room was a stairwell because they wanted to keep all of us inventors separate for some reason.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
They wanted to keep us segregated, so we weren't discussing things, I guess. I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, and then so I won the first show, and it was a couple days until the finale, so I got to hang out in New York for a while, and then came back for the finale, where all the winners of each episode came back and had their chance to win the grand prize. So
sure.
But yeah, it was a whirlwind. It was.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I've seen kind of season 1 and I think I've seen even maybe part of season 2, and like it's interesting because when people are pitching, like these are kids, right? So the nice thing about kids and something that I wish like where we kind of lose as maybe we get older is like they're brutally honest. Like whether they love it, hate it, or like they don't understand it or whatever, they will tell you, right? So I can imagine like how, like if you didn't know you were going in to pitch to kids and you walk in and you're just like a little panel of kids and they're just like, love it, right? You're like, okay, that's awesome. But yeah, so that's really cool, man. So
yeah, it was, I mean, it's kids, like you said, kids are honest. And the thing is, kids are not thinking about other motives, other reasons. They're not thinking about sales of the product. They're not thinking anything corporate. They're just like, do I like it or do I not? It's just so raw.
Yeah. And it's like, would I play with it? Yes or no? Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Or like when I've seen them, not like obviously not your, but like I've seen them where they like this product seems similar to that product, right? You're just like, oh, really? Like that's pretty cool that they can even make that comparison, right? So So you win the show. So then kind of what happens?
Well, so yeah, that was like, it went from a big, huge high to just a deep low. And the only reason it was a deep low was because I wasn't allowed to tell anybody. I was like under massive contract, of secrecy. So, I mean, I wasn't even allowed to tell my immediate family. I mean, like, that's a little tough, I mean, come back and, my parents and, family members are like, how'd it go? It's like, you'll
find out in a few months. I'm assuming it took a few months to air.
Actually, it took a lot longer than that.
Oh, okay.
It was intended to take a few months, and I don't have the exact. I forget exactly how long, but the show actually got pushed back a little while because of my product. The just to get everything figured out, the chemical makeup and the manufacturability and everything was a little bit of a challenge because dealing with chemicals and had to pass certain regulations to make sure it's safe as a kid's product.
Right.
So it took longer than just something that you would throw into an injection mold and spit out. So yeah, it took a little while. So I was like waiting for a long time.
Wow.
And a lot of anticipation.
So how involved? Because like it got put out by Mattel. So were you kind of working with them heavily to actually get it kind of ready for the shelf, for Toys R Us basically, or how did that kind of come, or were you kind of on your own? Was it a bit of both? Like, did they kind of basically say like, we'll help you with all this, or were you kind of on your own, or a bit of both?
So usually when you're licensing, the licensee is going to get as much information from you as possible, obviously, to help them in manufacturing and development.
Sure.
But at the same time, I'm not the professional when it comes to distribution, manufacturing, and that stuff. They are.
Sure.
And so in the beginning, we met, they got every bit of information that I had, and then they took it from there. So I didn't have any say on the name. I didn't have any say on packaging, which rightfully so. That it's their big investment. So they're gonna, and they've got people that are on salary doing this for a living. So who am I to say what the packaging should look like?
Interesting.
So yeah.
Yeah. Did you have to did you have to were you involved though? Like, would they show you kind of concepts and you had to say yay or nay, or you didn't even have a choice?
Didn't have a choice on that. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
okay.
When it came time to, I got a sneak peek before the show aired, and they said, "Here it is. This is what it's going to look like. This is how it's designed. What do you think?"
Okay.
And I think they were asking for just the heck of it, because I don't think it really mattered what I thought. And I was excited. I mean, it
sure.
came out really good. So there's nothing negative that I would have said anyways, but I don't think it would have mattered if I did have something negative to say.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting though, right? Because I think sometimes just being able to kind of let go and let the people that have done, this for decades, right? Just kind of handle it. It can be tricky, but at the same time, they know what they're kind of doing, and just kind of leaving it to them is an interesting kind of way to go about it, right? And I think I kind of agree with you. I actually think the packaging is really good, and how it turned out is really good. But it would be kind of hard to let go. I could see how that could potentially be hard for some people, right? Not saying you, but just in general. So.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, with inventors, every licensing deal is different. So you
sure.
have to take that in consideration. Sometimes a licensing deal, they require everything to come back to the inventor for approval.
Right.
Okay, and some they don't. My licensing deal was not like that, because it was Mattel. Okay. And
yeah, sure.
It was a TV show, but anyhow. Yes, there's some licensing deals that are like that, and the ones that are not, if you're an inventor that's wants control of everything, you're probably going to have a problem with that. And
sure.
It's what it is.
So I know we've kind of loosely covered exactly what the product kind of is, but for people that haven't maybe heard of Art Splash or seen it on TV, how do you describe the product? Because like I said earlier, my daughter has one and she really loves it, but for people that haven't heard of it, give us a kind of a quick overview of exactly what the final product kind of is.
So the technology is called surface tension, water tension. So basically what it is it is different. It's different coatings on the substrate, on the essentially paper. It's like plastic, but and with the different variations of surface tension in the different areas. What happens is when you put a drop of water in a specific area, and if it's a specific area where we want the water to stay, then what happens is that water stays there, and it doesn't want to go onto the other areas where we don't want the water. So what it does is with all the surface tension, it pushes that water together, and which it balls up. Okay, so it turns into like a bead almost.
Sure, yeah.
And it's the bead in the shape, a predetermined shape that we've designed. And so when you start adding different colors of water in different specific areas, kind of like a paint by numbers type thing,
sure.
then you get this three-dimensional art that looks like, I've heard people say it looks like Jell-O. It looks
sure.
like it's, everybody can't believe that it's still liquid. Everybody's like, oh, it turns into a solid, right? Well, no, it's still liquid. If you tip it, it's all going to run off.
Sure.
So it's kind of my one sentence benefit statement, which is something that we teach at InventRight on how to pitch a product, is my product makes three-dimensional images out of water.
Yeah, very cool.
Okay.
Yeah, my daughter calls them little jewels, but it's the same kind of concept, right? But it's liquid. It's cool. People should Google it, right? And actually have a look at it. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think you did a good job of explaining it, right? Without seeing it, right? Because I've never seen anything like it before, right? So I think it's really cool. So you get it obviously done by Mattel. It's sold in Toys R Us, so people can go pick it up. Walk me through kind of what happened kind of next for you, because you started a product development company. You're involved in InventRight. So what did you end up doing kind of after the product launched and is in stores and people start buying this thing?
Yeah, so now what I do is I not only am I still inventing, still pitching ideas, still trying to get other more licensing deals to add to my belt. Um, I also coach, so that's my product development side. I own a
Okay.
product development company called Enjoyal. But part time, I work for InventRight,
Okay.
and I every day, a few hours a day, I help students with their inventions, and I help them. Um, get their inventions to the point where they can pitch them to companies.
Okay.
So we teach a 10-step process of how to take your product from an idea into the marketing material and everything that's needed. It's patent pending and getting it out to companies. We help you negotiate the deal, everything.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I do. On a day-to-day basis. I'm constantly dealing with new products and inventions and licensing deals.
Okay. So for people that are maybe listening that, either have a product idea or maybe a prototype or something kind of at what kind of state or kind of, should they kind of potentially come to somebody like you guys at InventRight? Like, is it pretty early on when it's on a napkin, or do they need a prototype, or where do they need to be to come to you guys?
To be honest, I have students that come to me without even an idea, really. I mean, they might have
Really?
one idea or two ideas. We recommend coming with a couple ideas, but they can be, yeah, like you said, napkin. They can be napkin drawings, and we
Okay.
can help you through the process. We develop, with our program, we develop virtual prototypes for our students, sell sheets, so the marketing material.
Sure.
We help them with their provisional patent application, so they have patent pending for a year. Like I said, we help students from start to finish.
Interesting. Okay. And like, I've checked out the site before. Like, you guys have done some actually like big products that I think a lot of people would kind of recognize, right? Just kind of like either they've seen them in a commercial or at a physical location. So without maybe, if you want, you could kind of cover some of the products you've worked on, but what types of stuff do you usually kind of help people with, or is it kind of all over the map?
It's all over the map. I have students with inventions in every category.
Okay.
So there's no limits. I mean, we even have students that are dealing with business method patents. Okay, so
Okay. What does that
they have a
mean for people that
business
don't
method.
know?
Business method is basically a way of doing business.
Okay.
So you can file a business methods patent,
Okay.
and then you can contact a company and let them know that you have a new way for them to do their business differently.
Interesting.
So it's not a common one, but
Okay.
it is something that is out there.
So do you find, like, obviously you've been through the whole kind of like from basically like an idea to getting something in stores, like what types of advice do you kind of give people that are maybe looking to do this? Because you've kind of, had some ups and downs, obviously like a huge success. So like what kind of advice do you give people when they're kind of just getting into this game?
It's a numbers game, for one. I tell my students all the time, it's a numbers game.
Okay.
Don't think your first idea is going to get licensed. I got lucky with now it wasn't my first idea, but it was the first idea I actually tried pitching. So I was fortunate.
Okay.
It doesn't always happen like that. I have students that it happens for, and then I have students that have pitched multiple ideas and they're still pitching them. And it's just the way it works. Sometimes it's timing. You got to have tough skin. You need to be able to make phone calls, call companies, submit your products, and just keep moving forward.
Sure. And I'm assuming you guys kind of potentially make some intros through InventRight. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have a database of I think it's around over 3,000 companies that
Wow.
are what we call open innovation companies,
Okay.
and they are companies that we provide our students with their contact information, the way they like to their products submitted to them. So we call it InventRight Connect, but when you're a student of InventRight, you have access to that. So there's no guessing. Will a company accept my idea or not? We give you that information so you can just start calling the companies and submitting.
Okay. No, that's fair. So I'm curious though I think I probably know your answer. It probably really depends, but is there kind of like is prototyping or getting kind of a first version that people can play with can potentially be really expensive? Is there kind of a rough like advice you can give people to be like, don't spend more than X amount, or, try to do it with cardboard instead of metal, or I don't know. Like, is there kind of advice on like what you tell people, like, to actually get something into somebody's hands, whether it's an actual working prototype or something kind of as simple built out of like cardboard or something? Is there, how much money should you potentially spend?
So what we teach at InventRight is spend as little as possible to pitch a product.
Okay.
We don't want you to go file a non-provisional patent, which is the actual patent that's just going to cost you $4,000 to $10,000.
Sure.
We want you to file a provisional patent for $70.
Okay.
And be able to get a prototype that you haven't spent more than maybe $100 on. I mean, because like we give a free virtual prototype with our program. So
Okay.
a student comes to us, we do a free virtual prototype. Virtual prototypes are great if it doesn't need proof of concept.
Sure.
So if it's not the hoverboard from Back to the Future 2
Yeah.
that you're trying to pitch to a company, then a virtual prototype is fine.
So is that just like a 3D rendering that they can interact with? Is that what a virtual prototype is?
Yeah, a virtual prototype is going to be something that's done on the computer.
Okay.
It's three-dimensional, and it's not something you can touch and feel, but it's something that looks like the product would look after it's made.
Okay. And then you obviously work with the student to actually kind of create that, right?
Yeah, the student will come up with some, rough sketches, some napkin drawings,
Okay.
some reference photos online of other products that are similar colors, and then our designers build them that 3D rendering.
Okay. No, that's really cool. And so when they're basically going to pitch to one of these big companies, they basically just bring in their laptop and plug it in and kind of let them see the product kind of virtually. Is that fair to say how that kind of goes?
99% of the time, our students are not, going and pitching the product live.
Oh, interesting.
It's via email.
Okay.
Yeah, so the process is, we teach the students, call a company, what I say is, hey, my name is Ryan. I'm a product developer. I was calling to see if you guys accept product submissions.
Okay.
It's either going to be yes, no, or I don't know. And from there, you find out who the person you'll be talking to, then start pitching it from there. Send them the sell sheet, and then you go into the next stages. But
sure, and then I'm assuming at some point, like, you just send them a link to that virtual kind of product, and they can kind of virtually play with it.
The product is on the sell sheet. So in our marketing material,
okay.
It'll be a picture. We call it the beauty shot of the product. Usually, it'll have some bullet points of the benefits. It'll have what we call a 1-sentence benefit statement at the top that really captures, intrigues someone on the product.
Okay. No, that's really cool. So, and then how does it kind of, like, how do you guys kind of monetize InventRight? Like, do students have to pay for it? Do you get kind of part of the licensing deals? Like, how does that kind of work?
Yeah, so we are not a submission company. So
Okay.
the submission companies usually, I can't speak for all of them, but most of the time they'll charge someone a fee to submit, and then they'll take a percentage of royalties. We are not that. We are just a coaching company.
Okay.
So we don't want any percentage of royalties. We charge a flat fee to be part of our program, and we have a few different options, and I can't speak specifically on pricing because I'm not in sales, but
sure.
Basically what it is we have a one-on-one coaching. A student is set up with one of us coaches, myself or one of our other many coaches, and we help them through phone calls, through emails. We help them dial in everything, answer any questions they have, and help them through our online course and teach them a 10-step process to get their product from a napkin drawing into a licensing deal.
Sure. And you guys have had kind of products, in some of the biggest retailers, like, Walmart and Toys R Us and PetSmart. I'm just looking at the site right now, actually, like, Target and Home Depot and like places like that, right? That everybody's kind of heard of or driven by at least a handful of times. So, but I'm curious though, where do you kind of, like, what are you doing kind of now? Like, I know you have your own kind of product development company and you're doing InventRight, but like, walk me through kind of your day-to-day process when you're developing kind of a new product.
So my day-to-day process of personally developing is coming up with a product,
okay.
Coming up with maybe a prototype, coming up with a sell sheet. So it's pretty much the same. It is the same. I mean, I do what I teach. So I build a sell sheet, so marketing material.
Okay.
I build what we call a hit list. So we build a list of companies that would be potentially a licensee for our product.
Okay.
And then I start making phone calls. You know, it's just what I said. You know, I'm trying to get in the door. And then once I can get my foot in the door, then I'm submitting my product, my sell sheet, my marketing material.
Okay.
And then I'm currently working on a couple of contracts personally for a few of my products that hopefully will be signed. I have one specifically that's under review right now for a fitness product.
Okay.
I have a shoe product. I've got toy products. I've got household products. So, and it's just, pitching the ideas and hoping a company, is interested.
Sure. But I think that's actually really good advice for people listening, right? It's like you sold a product to a huge company, it's obviously, kind of across the nation, but you're still basically doing what you did before you sold that product to Mattel, right? And won the show. So I think that's really good advice to people listening.
Well, this is what I want to do. It's not a one and done type thing. I love coming up with products. Why would I stop after I license something? I mean, why not just keep doing it and getting better at it?
Sure.
And that's the whole goal. I mean, since, being a coach and teaching people and working with people every day, I'm able to sharpen the skills of licensing and product development. I'm constantly helping students, fine tune their ideas and better their ideas. So it just helps with my own personal skills.
Sure. So I'm guessing that the fact that you sold something to Mattel helps with some of the negotiations, or does it how much does it matter, I guess, to some of these other companies? Is it kind of a big deal? Is it a nice to have, or they don't really care?
So it's nice to have.
Okay.
It's nice to have that, I mean, because it does make me look like a more professional, more professional in the business.
Okay.
Now, with that said, I mean, our students, if they present themselves appropriately in a professional manner, then they're going to have the same, potential that I would have. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm able to license product easier, just because I was on a TV show because it comes down to the product and it comes down to my pitch, and just because I tell them I was on TV and I licensed some to Mattel isn't going to get my chances of licensing the product any better.
Sure. So walk me through a little bit of the process, because you've kind of covered it. So you pitch a product, like you mentioned, you sent some cold calls, you sent some emails, but and you said you have a product under review. How long does it kind of roughly take? I'm sure it's different based on how complicated the product is, but you basically submit to them, and then do they basically call you back and say we're reviewing it, or kind of walk me through kind of a rough process of how it kind of goes from actually getting into review and them deciding whether they're going to make this or not?
Yeah, so it's kind of like, I can relate it to dating.
Okay.
Right? So so you submit your product, okay?
Okay.
And maybe it intrigues someone in the company. Okay. That's like the date. That's like you're seeing each other from across the room, and you start that dating, and then you ask them out, you go on a date. So that first call that they want to talk to you is your first date.
Okay.
Right. So you're not saying, hey, I want 10% royalty. I want minimum guarantees. I want, upfront royalties in advance. You're not saying all this stuff, because that would be the equivalent of asking, hey, you want to spend the night tonight? You're not going to do that on your first date. So you just you're interviewing them a little bit. So when they call and they're interested, it's just kind of, you're interviewing them, they're interviewing you. You're asking things like, if they're interested, and obviously if they're calling you back, they're interested.
Sure.
So the kind of questions you're going to ask are, where do you guys distribute? Are you worldwide? What stores are you in? What categories? Just talk, and you're kind of taking notes, and then it comes down to, they ask, maybe they're interested more and they want to move to this next step. All right.
Okay.
Then it's, well, what do you want? All right. They're asking you, what do you want? You always try to get them to throw the first punch.
Okay.
So when it comes to, for example, a royalty rate, you don't want to throw out 7%.
Okay.
Because maybe they were thinking 10%. Maybe they were thinking, something else, and they can never come down from what they say. So
Okay.
if they say, for example, let's say they say 8%. Well, great. You were thinking 7 in your head.
Sure.
Perfect. 8. And you can just take that, or what you do is we call it framing. And so if they say 3% and you were thinking 7, then basically that's the frame. So they say 3 and you say, well, I was thinking more around 8. Why don't we settle it like 7?
Okay.
Then you framed it. So then it's like, okay, well, they're saying 3, you're saying 7. Now maybe hopefully we can meet in the middle somewhere around 5.
Sure.
So it's all about negotiating. We teach that. We have and actually, when it gets to negotiation stages, David Fedewa is our negotiations coach in InventRight, and Stephen, helps David too. So and that's all David does. It's negotiating. I mean, he has contract after contract after contract that he's helping our students negotiate. So that's his specific role in the company.
Okay. So you negotiate and you come to a number, then kind of what happens?
So there's many different factors in a licensing agreement. So the very first thing is royalty rate, right? I mean, everybody wants to know, what's my rate? What's my rate? I want 10%. Well, that is very minimal with importance when it comes down to a actual agreement. There's so many other things involved. There's minimum guarantees, because what good is a 10, 20, 30, whatever percentage rates that you get if there's no minimum guarantees and they don't sell anything?
Yep.
If they don't sell anything and there's no way for you to get that contract back, that licensing, that product back, then they can sit on your product for a lifetime and it's done. You don't make $1, even if your percentage is 20%.
Interesting.
So a minimum guarantee is very important. And so working that into a contract is important. We have things like performance clauses where, we say, hey, we'll give you a year to get the product into stores. If you can't do that, then we get the product back. There's just all sorts of different things in a contract that you want to look at.
Okay. No, that's actually really interesting. So if the product starts kind of, selling and is doing well, do you usually try to negotiate like a better percentage or like a bonus, or how does that kind of work?
There are different ways that can be done.
Okay.
But it's most of the time it's not done quite like that.
Okay.
It's not like, hey, if my product sells this much, then you're going to owe me more money. It's based on the percentage. It's usually, the minimums are set so you're not getting paid less than what is agreed upon. Okay. So if you have a $50,000 a year minimum and they don't sell enough product at your specific percentage rate to equate to a payment of that within the year, then they have to pay you the difference or you get the product back.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. No, that's cool. And then it just kind of like, because Art Splash has been out for a while now. Like, do you talk to Mattel kind of on like a quarterly basis or yearly basis, or you don't really talk to them at all anymore?
About Art Splash?
Yeah.
I don't talk to them about Art Splash really much.
Okay.
There's not much that I can say to them about Art Splash. I mean, at this point, they know more about Art Splash than I do.
Okay. And then you just get your checks in the mail kind of thing?
Yeah, and royalties are paid quarterly.
Okay.
In most deals, so it's every 3 months.
Okay.
And it's usually, 30 to 45 days after the end of the quarter.
Okay.
So.
No, okay. That's really cool. So we're kind of coming to the end of the show, but is there any other kind of advice that you maybe haven't mentioned that you think would be really good for people that are looking to kind of get into the inventor business or space?
If someone is looking to get into the invention space, specifically in licensing, don't think you don't have what it takes, because I believe anybody can do it. It's not rocket science. I wouldn't say it's easy, but it is simple. Okay. So
interesting.
Simple means anybody could do it. Easy means it's going to take you work.
Sure.
So don't get into it thinking it's a slam dunk, no problem. It's going to take you work. But I mean, how great is it to be able to think of something, give it off to a company, and then collect royalties for who knows how long. I mean,
Sure.
maybe it's 3 years, 10, maybe it's forever. Who knows?
Sure.
And then you move on to the next product, or you continue to do your full-time job and you do this on the side.
Sure. I guess, yeah, like there's no reason you can't do this part-time, right? If that's your goal. Yeah, that's interesting.
We don't recommend that someone quits their day job.
Okay, interesting.
Trying to license. You know, I mean, licensing can take 3, 6, 9, 12 months. I mean, it depends. Sometimes contracts can go into negotiation for 3 to 6 months,
Sure.
after a company's already interested.
Okay.
So, and then after that, you got to think it's got to go into manufacturing. That could take another 6 months. And then you're not getting paid for, until the next quarter ends, and then 45 days after that. So you can see it's a long process. It's not get a product, invent it, and get paid in a week or a month. It's a long process. So you just keep at it.
Sure.
So what we recommend is, stick with what you do for a living. Do this on the side. When you start building up a couple royalties and you got, money flowing in, then you can transition to a full-time position in, product development.
Interesting. No, I think that's really good advice, but sadly we're at the end of the show. So let's close with mentioning where people can get more information about yourself, ArtSplash, and InventRight, and anything else you want to mention?
I think that's it. Yeah, check out ArtSplash. You can Google it. You'll find it. It's at toysrus.com or any Toys R Us. You can look me up. I'm on Facebook or LinkedIn under Ryan Stewart. And as far as InventRight, go to inventright.com if you're looking to be a student and want to learn more about licensing. And that's about it.
Perfect, Ryan. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Yeah, bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Please visit the show's website at buildingthefutureshow.com. Also check us out on Facebook at Building the Future Show and follow us on Twitter at Building Show. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.